This is a powerful story that highlights the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability within law enforcement. Here's a paraphrase version, focusing on making it engaging and unique. The badge, the bigot, and the bitter end. A tale of power and prejudice. Under the unforgiving Georgia sun. A scene unfolded that would etch itself into the annals of police misconduct. David Sterling, a tall, imposing black man, stood shirtless, hands cuffed, sweat beading on his chest. His wrists already bore angry red marks. Across from him, Officer Mike Callahan savored the moment, a smug, contemptuous smile plastered across his face. He felt victorious, in control. Yet David, despite the public humiliation, remained remarkably calm. No fear, no anger, just sharp, analytical eyes fixed on Callahan. His voice, low and even, cut through the oppressive heat. "When you have finished with your pastime, officer, I have something in my coat pocket that I think you might like to see." How did a routine traffic stop devolve into this public spectacle? And what hidden truth in that coat could possibly turn the oppressor into the supplicant? The paths diverge. A day off interrupted. 20 minutes earlier, David Sterling, a man whose success wasn't measured in luxury cars but in the corrupt officials he put behind bars, was enjoying a rare day off. As the FBI's senior supervisory special agent in charge of the Bureau's anti-corruption unit in Atlanta, he spent 2 decades hunting down those who betrayed their oaths, politicians, judges, and especially police officers. The past week had been grueling, culminating in the arrest of a police chief and 3 detectives for bribery and covering up a drug ring. Now, cruising in his gunmetal gray Audi A7, jazz notes from John Coltrane filling the air, he was headed to a barbecue with his old friend, Jim Anderson, now the Clayton County Sheriff. Their paths had diverged after their early days as young patrolmen in Atlanta, David to the FBI, Jim to local law enforcement leadership. But their bond, forged in shared dangers and dreams of making a difference, remained strong. David, dressed casually, yearned to be just Dave for a few hours. Meanwhile, a different reality festered in the mind of Officer Mike Callahan. At 50, bitterness was his constant companion. He felt the world had turned against him, dismissing his 25 years of service. That very morning, Sheriff Anderson had called him in, detailing 4 citizen complaints in the last 3 months alone. One person said you called him boy. A woman said you commented inappropriately on her clothing. 2 others said you were aggressive and condescending during routine traffic stops. Anderson had stated, his tone serious but not harsh. He ordered Callahan to attend a de-escalation and communication training course. Humiliated, Callahan seethed. He, with his years of experience, needed training? He blamed scum who had no respect for the law. Leaving Anderson's office, betrayal burned, a desperate need to reassert his power. And then he saw it. A sleek Audi A7, an expensive import, out of place on a country road, driven by a black man. Callahan's deep-seated prejudices ignited. In his narrow worldview, a black man in such a car could only mean illicit gains. He decided to teach him a lesson, to remind this man who truly held power in Mike Callahan's territory. The provocation and the uncanny calm. David, accustomed to such stops, calmly pulled over. Callahan approached, his walk slow, smug. "Do you know why I stopped you?" he asked, his tone dripping with unfriendliness. Callahan then spun a blatant lie. "Your license plate is partially obscured by dirt." David's plate was spotless. License and registration were handed over. Callahan barely glanced at them, instead peering into the luxurious interior, then at David with critical eye. "Nice car. What do you do for a living to afford one?" "I work for the government," David replied briefly, guarding his day off from work details. "Government? Cleaning City Hall, maybe?" Callahan sneered, his questions escalating. "Anything illegal in the car? Drugs? Weapons?" David, an expert in interrogating criminals, recognized a bully in uniform, the fragile ego seeking to assert dominance. The best strategy? Unwavering calm. "Nothing, officer," David stated, his voice unyielding. David's composure infuriated Callahan. He expected fear, a stammer, a hint of guilt. This man's self-possession felt like a challenge, a silent laugh at his authority. "Get out of the car," Callahan ordered. "I need to check further." David took a breath. He knew his rights, knew he could refuse, but escalating with an armed, angry cop was dangerous. He chose compliance to let the farce play out. He calmly stepped out, leaned against the car as ordered. "I suspect you concealing contraband," Callahan announced, completely baseless. Then came the final demand designed for ultimate humiliation. "Take off your shirt and your undershirt. I want to see." "Officer, you have no legal reason for this. This is an illegal request," David stated, his voice still level. "I said take it off." Callahan roared, hand on his gun, an unmistakable threat. "Or do you want me to charge you with resisting an officer? I could make your day a lot worse." David faced a choice. Use his FBI-honed self-defense skills and incapacitate Callahan, creating a messy report and potentially damaging vital relationships, or let the idiot dig his own grave. He chose the latter. With an almost supernatural calm, which only further enraged Callahan, he slowly removed his sport coat, then his polo shirt, revealing a body honed by rigorous FBI training. Callahan, still unsatisfied, seeking total submission, yanked David's arms behind his back and cuffed him. "For officer safety," he declared sarcastically. He left David standing there, shirtless, handcuffed, a spectacle for passing cars. The revelation and the reckoning. Callahan circled David, gloating, a cat toying with a trapped mouse. He had regained his sense of power, taught the rich guy a lesson. "See," he crowed, "when you respect the badge, things get easier." It was then that David, after allowing Callahan his moment of fleeting power, spoke. His voice, deep and clear, cut through the silence. "When you're done with your pastime, officer, I have something in my coat pocket that I think you might like to see." Callahan frowned, surprised by the man's continued composure. Curiosity mingled with his smugness. "Something you want to show me? Let's see. Maybe a bag of weed or some cheap lawyer's card you think will scare me." He walked to David's sport jacket, tossed on a hot hood. He reached into the inside pocket, felt a bulge, and pulled out a black leather wallet. He opened it, expecting cash or a platinum card. Instead, his heart stopped. Nestled within the wallet, protected by soft leather, was a metal badge, shining in the sun. An eagle, a shield, and engraved on it. Federal Bureau of Investigation, United States Department of Justice. Below it, an ID card. A photo of the handcuffed, shirtless man standing a few feet away. The name, David Sterling. The title, in bold, clear print. Supervisory Special Agent, Senior Surveillance Agent. Callahan froze. The badge felt like it burned his hand. All color drained from his face, replaced by pure horror. His stomach tightened, a sour taste rising in his throat. The blood rushed in his ears, a deafening buzz. He had just arrested, stripped, and handcuffed a senior FBI agent. The rumors of a new FBI corruption unit in Atlanta, the unit chief Anderson had warned them all about, flashed through his mind. His 25-year career, his pension, his reputation, all turned to dust. He hadn't just dug a hole. He dug his own grave and jumped in. "Oh, God, I don't know," Callahan stammered, his hand shaking so violently he nearly dropped the wallet. He whirled, fumbling for his handcuff keys, dropping them in his haste. Sweating profusely, he bent to retrieve them, feeling trapped in a nightmare. "Sir, Agent, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just doing my job." "I was too careful," he whimpered. David said nothing, standing eerily calm as Callahan struggled with the cuffs. His silence was more terrifying than any scream, a testament to complete control, observing Callahan's demise with cold objectivity. Finally, the cuffs clicked open. David calmly rubbed his wrists, the red marks already visible. He looked directly at the panicked, now pathetic policeman. "You made a lot of mistakes today, Officer Callahan," David said, his voice cold and emotionless. "And just doing your job is not an excuse. It's an accusation that shows you don't understand what your job is." David walked to his car, deliberately putting on his shirt, then his jacket, enjoying Callahan's growing discomfort. Then he pulled out his phone. Callahan held his breath, praying he wouldn't call anyone. "Jim," David said into the phone, his tone familiar, friendly, a terrifying contrast for Callahan. "David Sterling here." "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks for asking." He paused, glancing at the ghost-white Callahan. "Listen, Jim, sorry to interrupt your day off, but I'm on Old Dixie Road in your district. I'm having a little problem with one of your officers, Callahan, number 348. Could you come over here?" "Oh, and if you could bring the head of the Internal Affairs Department with you." "Thanks, Jim. See you later." He hung up, the quiet click echoing in the suffocating silence. The game was over. It was time to settle the score. #, justice served. Sheriff Jim Anderson arrived in under 10 minutes, his car speeding. He found a sight no sheriff ever wants to see. His best friend, a high-ranking FBI agent, stony-faced, and one of his veteran officers shaking, on the verge of tears. David, with chilling objectivity, recounted the events, the trumped-up stop, the provocative questions, the forced stripping, the handcuffs. No anger, no raised voice. The facts were damning enough. With every word, Jim Anderson's face darkened with anger and shame. He remembered his conversation with Callahan that very morning, his warnings. Now, this idiot had created a disaster. He turned to Callahan, who couldn't meet his superior's eyes. "Callahan!" Jim roared, his voice devoid of its usual friendliness, filled with the wrath of a betrayed commander. "Turn in your weapon and badge immediately. You are suspended without pay, pending the outcome of the investigation." Callahan, trembling, unbuckled his gun belt and handed it over. He looked like a man who had lost his soul. His career, his life, was over right there on that dusty country road. The ensuing investigation, conducted jointly by the FBI and the Clayton County Sheriff's Department's Internal Affairs, was swift and thorough. The David Sterling case was a final straw, sparking a broader probe into Callahan's years of behavior. Re-interviewed citizens, emboldened by the FBI's involvement, painted a grim picture of an officer who routinely abused his power, targeting minorities and the vulnerable. Callahan's dash cam, though he'd forgotten to turn on the sound, clearly showed him forcing David to strip. Combined with the testimony of a senior FBI agent and a history of complaints, the evidence was overwhelming. Mike Callahan was prosecuted at both state and federal levels. His attorney's flimsy argument that he had simply misbehaved in the line of duty was rejected by the jury. They saw it for what it was, a systematic abuse of power rooted in prejudice. The final sentence, 4 years and 7 months in a federal prison, a humiliating end to a 25-year career. Weeks later, David Sterling and Jim Anderson finally had their barbecue. "I'm really sorry about what happened, David," Jim said, still regretful. "It's not your fault, Jim," David replied. "It's the fault of a system that's sometimes too lenient with people like Callahan. You did the right thing by calling me your friend, and you did the right thing by doing justice to your officer. That's what matters." He took a sip of beer. "This incident, unpleasant as it is, gives us an opportunity, a chance to come clean, to send a message." And they did. Callahan's case became the catalyst for a new program of reform and oversight in local police departments, in partnership with the FBI, a program David personally oversaw. His day off was ruined, but justice was served, not just for him, but for all of Callahan's anonymous victims who came before him. And to David Sterling, that was a victory worth more than any day off. This story powerfully illustrates that power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. Officer Callahan, given a badge and a gun, became an oppressor, driven by his prejudices and insecurity. David Sterling, despite being targeted, became a protector, not just for himself, but for the principle of justice. Reflecting on justice and accountability, was a 4-year, 7-month prison sentence an appropriate punishment for Officer Callahan? From the perspective of the law and the gravity of his offenses, which included illegal detainment, false charges, humiliation, and a pattern of abuse of power, it serves as a significant consequence. It also provides a deterrent to others who might consider similar actions. However, some might argue that the psychological and emotional trauma inflicted on his many victims, and the broader erosion of trust in law enforcement, might warrant a more severe penalty. Others might believe that for a 25-year veteran, losing his career and pension, combined with prison time, is a sufficiently harsh punishment. This story suggests a complex and often strained relationship between law enforcement and accountability. Astra's internal culture and Blue Wall, Callahan's behavior, and the fact that it took the involvement of a high-ranking FBI agent to truly bring him down, highlights how internal mechanisms for accountability can sometimes fail. His past complaints suggest a system that, while logging issues, may not have acted decisively enough until a prominent figure was targeted. This hints at the blue wall of silence, or an organizational culture that sometimes tolerates or covers up misconduct. Asterisk the power external oversight. David Sterling's position as a senior supervisory special agent from the FBI's anti-corruption unit provided the necessary external force to ensure a thorough investigation and prosecution. This underscores a critical role that independent oversight and federal involvement can play when local accountability falters. Asterisk the human element of justice. The story emphasizes that accountability isn't just about policies and procedures. It's about the character of individuals in power. Callahan's actions were driven by personal bitterness, prejudice, and a desperate need to assert control, revealing a profound lack of understanding of his role. Conversely, Sheriff Anderson, by acting decisively once the full truth was revealed, demonstrated integrity and commitment to his community. Asterisk catalyst for change. The positive outcome of this incident, the catalyst for a new program of reform and oversight, indicates that even negative events can force necessary changes. It suggests that true accountability often requires a significant and undeniable incident to push for systemic reform. Ultimately, the story argues that the badge is a symbol of trust and responsibility, not a license for arrogance and prejudice. When power is abused, it exposes the abuser's weakness, and while justice may be slow, once its wheels are in motion, no amount of complacency or belated apologies can stop it. What are your thoughts on how effective internal affairs departments are in ensuring accountability for police misconduct?